Hello everyone, my name is Rick and I welcome you to part 5 of our Hackolade tutorial. In this part, we're going to be talking to you about how you can add nested objects and arrays to your data models. In previous parts, we've talked a lot about how you do create a data model and how you can work with JSON and JSON schemas to create query-driven data models based on access patterns. Right, so we've got our first data model and now we're going to be adding these new nested objects and arrays to that data model. That's quite interesting, right? Because these nested objects are actually really complex data types. Right? Complex data types that can take many different shapes that are typical of some of the newer NoSQL type of technologies, right? All of these data types are available in the specific plugins and targets that you're going to be using in the Hackolade Studio, depending on the one that you choose, right? Some technologies will support it, others may not. Right? Sometimes, and this is also something to take care of, the naming is just different. So, you will have to kind of get used to that and do the specific activities for the specific models, but why don't we just dive right in and get going with this? So what I have here is a very simple data model, right, where I have a person entity with a first name, last name, date of birth, and height. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to insert a new attribute to this particular entity, and I'm going to say, okay, this field is actually going to be an object, right? Meaning that we are going to be adding more depth, multiple layers to this particular data element as we add it to the structure. Now, as you can see, I was doing this from the ER diagram, but let me remove this quickly and switch to the schema diagram for this particular entity. What I'm going to do here now is I'm going to append an attribute here in the schema overview, and I'm going to add an object there. This object is going to be an address, right? So let's give it a name, and now we can start working with that address and add depth to this structure and adding additional components to the address object that we've just added. So what I'll do here is I will add a string here. That string is going to be the house number of the address. Then I'm going to add another one, and that is going to be a street, right? This is the street. I'll add another one, and that is the city, right? And I'll add another one, and that is the state, right? Note that I have shortcuts here, keyboard shortcuts that I can use, and by doing that, I can build out this nested structure for my particular person entity. When I go back here now, you will see that it has also been added obviously to the ER diagram, and I have that nested object structure part of my person entity. Similarly, I can also add a different type of complex data type here. So if I reopen the person tab here, and I'm just going to say, okay, let's append an attribute here, which is going to be an array, right? Then it's going to add a new type of element here, which is going to be my pets, right? So a list of my pets, which are going to be a number of string elements that are going to be added over here, right? I can actually give that a name as well. I can say, okay, I can call this a pet name property, right? Right. So, and now that will show up over here. All the pet names will be added to that array in a particular sequence. I can also use this same mechanism now to add a tuple, for example, right? So I'm going to add another array here, right? And this is going to be not a string, it's going to be an array, as I just said, right? And this in the tuple, right? This is going to be a sequence of ordered items with potentially different schemas. So let's say that the first one here is a string, right? The second one is going to be an object, right? And then I'll add a third one, which is going to be, let's say it's going to be a number, right? So I choose that over here, right? And now I've added that again to my nested structure. Let me show it to you over here. And as expected, we're going to be generating the JSON schema for these entities, right? So if I double click on that, you will see the JSON here as it gets generated. And of course, you can use this in a variety of different ways afterwards. So there we go. In this tutorial, we have now reviewed how you can create these more complex data structures with objects and arrays. In the next tutorial, we'll cover some JSON schema choices, as well as some conditional applications of subschemas and pattern fields. I hope this was useful for you, and I look forward to seeing you in the next part of the tutorial. Have a wonderful day.